Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy, and I'm here to start week 13 of 2023. And happy Tuesday. Surprise, it is Tuesday. I meant to film my opening clip on Sunday night like normal, but after the Avalanche game, I ended up taking a nap. I mean, during the game, somehow I managed to take a nap that was the 20 minutes, exactly the length of the second intermission. And I woke up and I was just like kind of disoriented and like, what time is it? What's going on? And I looked at the TV and they were doing the puck drop for the third period. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't sleep through the game. And then last night, Monday night, they played. And I'm a few episodes behind on Married at First Sight, so I've been trying to catch up on that. So I watched an episode of that, and it ended like 1 minute before pregame was yesterday because it was a super late game, and I fell asleep during the second intermission again, and then I woke up with 7.5 minutes left in the game, and they were up 5-1, and I promptly fell back asleep. And then woke up at 12:30 and was just like, and it was a struggle to get off the couch and go to my room and go to bed. I just was so exhausted. So yeah, we have things to chat about. So book wise, I'm just going to go in order. Last week I had started The Bookworm's Guide to Flirting. This is the third book in Emma Hart's Bookworm's Guide series. I've been listening to the audio on Hoopla at work, and I had started it last week on Friday. Didn't listen to any audiobooks this weekend, but I did finish it at work this morning. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars as well. I enjoyed it. I think it's probably my least favorite of the three, but this one was definitely a slow burn like the second book. But this one also was shorter. At least it was a couple hours shorter, I feel like, than the first book, audiobook wise. So I'm not sure what kind of happened there, but I thought about maybe giving it 4 stars because I just felt like the romance wasn't quite as developed. I feel like we jumped in partway through them like figuring things out. But I just loved all the side characters and the humor and how everything continued, and it just was hitting the spot. So I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed this trilogy. I thought it was super fun. If you did not see last week's vlog, I think I binged the first 2 books last week. This series is set in a small town in Montana, and the 3 heroines of the series own a bookstore together, and it's them all finding their romances. And this one was Sailor, and she's super sassy, and I loved so this is between her and her roommate Dylan, who's like a super sports person. And he's just like, oh, we're doing this, or oh, the guys invited us out to do this. Did you have any plans? And she's like, yes, my plans were to go home, get in comfy clothes, and finish the book I'm currently in the middle of. And he's like, those aren't plans. And she's like, yes, they are. So I just like, you can tell that Emma is really writing this, understanding what it's really like to be a reader. Now, and I get that there's different types of ways of being a reader, but I read another book recently where it was like trying to do the reader thing, and a book lover heroine, and the way they were talking and the way that they were acting just didn't feel like she actually loved or cared about reading, which was weird because she was supposed to be a librarian. But this one is not the case. They end up going to a bigger town to go to some big box store to buy, or an appliance store or something, to buy a new microwave. And she sees like a big, independently ran, bookstore. It gave me almost kind of like Borders feeling, which I miss Borders so much. Which I know technically it was a big corporation, but it gave me like Borders feeling, the way that she was describing the store. And she just, like, she was kind of not facing her feelings for her roommate Dylan at that point. But he's just like, I'm going to go to the cafe. You wander. We'll meet back at the car if like, I don't find you or you don't find me or whatever. And so he finally comes and gets her, and he's like, it's been 45 minutes. And she's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's go check out. And he's like, you're buying 8 books. And it was just so cute because he's like, you own a bookstore. Like, before they got there, before they went inside, he's like, you own a bookstore. And she goes, yeah, but they might have different books. And he's just like, different books? I totally got it. I totally get it. And he doesn't give her crap for it. He's just like, okay, if you're ready to check out, let's just go home, because I'm done being in this town. And just like, he's like, you could tell he's done and he's bored and he just wants to go home now. But he's not like pushing her. He's more just kind of letting her know, yeah, I'm kind of at my limit today. And she realizes then that she's falling for him. And just the fact that he didn't say anything about her wanting to be in a bookstore for 45 minutes. And he was happy to do it because it's something that she loves. And she was like, I don't need flowers. And he's like, and she goes, chocolate's always good. But he goes, but books is where it's at. And she goes, yeah, I don't need flowers. You can get me books. And I just love it. And I love the humor. And this one was super cute. But like I mentioned, I did want a little bit more from their romance, because I feel like we jumped in several months of them already being roommates, and I was missing, and we saw when they met each other in the second book, but we missed that portion where they became friends, two friends lusting after each other / friends pining after each other. And we didn't really get any full steamy scenes until like 90-ish% again. So this one was definitely a slow burn. Although at like 60-ish, 70-ish%, I can't remember exactly where, we do kind of get he comes home from a date and she's taking care of herself in her bedroom, and he can hear her taking care of herself, and he ends up taking care of himself. And the entire time he's like, I shouldn't do this. This is weird. This is super weird. I'm not going to be able to look at her the next morning knowing what we're doing. And then he's like, what is she fantasizing about? She's thinking of me. And then they both like unknowingly mutually masturbate. I don't know. It was just, I just really am enjoying these series. And I was looking at Emma Hart, and the books that I more struggled with from her in the past were a couple of her standalones, but her Kiss Me trilogy I love, and I have 2 of the 3 of the books on paperback. I'm just waiting for the other one to not be so ridiculously expensive. And I definitely am going to add this series to my wish list. And we get kind of a hint. And I knew this because I was kind of looking to see if there was a book for the second heroine's sister, because there's some references to her romance and she's having a baby in this series. And there's some kind of references between the heroine from the first book's older brother and one of their good friends, Tori. And when I was looking at Emma Hart's series list, she has an introvert's guide series, and I was like, oh, that's very similar to this. And the first book is Tori and Colton's book, so I'll probably wait till April. But I think the next contemporary audiobook I pick up will most likely be that series, unless I need something for like a book club or something like that. But I'm just enjoying these right now, and they're really kind of hitting the spot. I might wait a little bit to pick up the other series though, just because I don't want to overdo it too much and then be over it. But I enjoyed this, like I said. As for what I can apply it to reading challenge wise, this worked for Read What You Own. For Gildathon, I got my 15 points plus the series for finishing a series. It's only a trilogy, but hey, 15 points is better than the 5 points for the prompt. And then for my Pretty Pretty Princess board game quarterly challenge, I used this for one of the jewelry prompts for Ring, which is read a book with that piece of jewelry on the cover or the part of the body it's worn on, and you can see her fingers and her hands. So I used it for Ring. And then for Read the Season, I applied this to the word spring, which is the main word that you have to complete. And this works for letter E for Emma. So there is that. Now, I finished that today at work, but I had started it last week. Physical reading wise, Saturday, I picked up House of Sky and Breath. That's just the dust cover. So I am alternating between reading the hardback and my library book and my Kindle. I ended up picking it up on Kindle Sunday night. I switched over to the Kindle because I was in bed and I didn't want lights on to read the hardback, so I used the Kindle because it's backlit and all that good stuff. So I was reading it today because there was no game or anything. So I'm on part 3, which is The Pit. And I'll show you the fun bookmark I'm using. It's a really cool holographic Daenerys bookmark. I don't remember where I got it, but I love it. And because it's so big, I can really only use it for hardbacks, which I don't read very often because I don't have very many hardbacks. Although I normally say that, but I have a huge stack of hardbacks in my bedroom right now. But most of them aren't romance books. And a lot of them I'll probably end up taking to the used bookstore because I probably won't read them again. But I'm just going to hold up the dust cover because that's easier to do. So, yeah, parts 1, part 3. First off, why is this a thing that Sarah J. Maas is doing with this series where the prologue, we're getting attached to at least one character and then they're dying? Why is this a thing for this series? I can't take it. Like, way to freaking start a book on a freaking emotional heart-wrencher. This one was a little more of a toss-up because we were like, is she alive? Is she not alive? Obviously, I kind of want to get into it a little bit. So, the spoilers, I usually talk about books in depth. So, if you don't want any spoilers for this, skip ahead till I'm not holding this up anymore. But Sophie. And if you've read it before, I'm now at part 3, so we officially know that she is dead. She was not able to be saved. Oh my gosh, there's so much. I cannot tell you. At least 2 times tonight during the reading sprints, I was like, what? Out loud, and like scared my kitty because it was like quiet in here. And I was just like, what? And oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Bryce and Hunt are mates, and like mates, not just the word mates, but their soul is bound, their bodies are bound together mates, like fated mates, but it's not called fated mates, but they're like true mates. We got stuff going on with the rebels, and I'm kind of on the rebel situation. It feels like right where they are right now, they were kind of assisting the rebels up to this point. They kind of got roped into assisting the rebels, but now they're almost like taking a step back. And I almost wish it had been the opposite, that they, through whatever circumstances, had started kind of taking on the Asteri and just the way things are run by themselves for whatever motivations needed to happen. And it just happened to coincide with a lot of what the human rebels are trying to do. I hate the girl who's doing the human rebel crap, and she just has a vendetta against all of the Veneer, which are basically supernatural creatures. And I just... I want bad guys, and this feels a lot more complex. And I don't know, maybe this is naive of me, or just, I definitely prefer more when we have like an ACOTAR or Throne of Glass. Like, yeah, there's different factions or whatever, but like, there's good guys and there's bad guys. And yeah, there's people who we think are double agents or end up being double agents, or, you know, switching sides to come to the good side once they like see the light or whatever. But I dislike the way a lot of the dealings with the human rebels is kind of going. But some of them I like. And it seems like the only ones that are really fighting for human rights, not that the humans aren't fighting, but are really fighting mindfully and smartly and not allowing their emotions or the rigidity of the situation of humans versus Veneer. The Veneers that are helping the human rebels, I feel like are doing it better. They're able to distance themselves, maybe because they aren't human, but look at things more objectively and come up with better plans that aren't putting unnecessary lives at risk. I wish that people would listen to frickin' Hunt more. He has fought through 2 different rebellion wars against the Asteri. You would think, whether he was the Veneer or not, that these upper echelon human rebels, I mean, they know who he is. They know what happened to him. He was one of the top leaders of the previous frickin' rebellion. And then he was enslaved because they lost for centuries. And I guess maybe that's a thing. He's lost it both times, or he was on the side that lost it both times. But you would think that he would be more of an asset and they would want more of his take on the situation, and they're just as ready to knock him out whether he can really help their cause or not. And they're not thinking smartly. They're not doing what they can to actually complete the mission of the rebellion. They're letting their hatred against the Veneer take over, or at least this one person, and she's swaying the command. But so I'm kind of over that portion of it. It's a little grating to me, especially because we've seen it over and over and over with this person and everybody doesn't like her. How is she still the one in command? And I'm like, but that's the point, right? Because she's just as monstrous in her actions as the Asteri. And that's why I almost wish that Bryce and Hunt and like her little group had their own like rebellion, and then they ended up having to work with these people, or they ended up being after the same kind of mission and almost forced to share intel, and then you know, them realizing and kind of really stepping back. But I feel like we are headed in that direction. I'm just not 100% enjoying the journey when it comes to the human rebels for a lot of the time. We get so many other POVs here. We get Therion's POV a lot, which is super fun. He's the mer person. Their intelligence captain, I think. We get a lot of Rune's POV. And he has formed a bridge. He's become Agent Knight with Agent Daybright. And there is something happening between Rune and this Agent Daybright people, but they only see each other or talk to each other in their mind bridge. And I feel like, I don't know, I have a guess on who Agent Daybright is because he got little pieces of information. So my guess, Agent Daybright is the Hind? The Hound? The Hind? His, the witch's half-sister. The Hind, I think. Not the Hound. Yeah, because it's the Hind, and then there's the Hellhound, who's Braxian, who I am like, I want Braxian to be good so bad. He's just a lonely hellhound. I love him, and I want him to be friends with all of our people that we love, and I hope he's like, just lost, and we can take him in, and he won't be a double agent against us. That's what I'm really hoping, because I'm really loving Braxian, and I wish there was more Braxian. And I mean, what else is there? Oh, Ethan, Connor's little brother. And we're learning more about some of the situations. I definitely think, because this is a first time read for me, a lot of those connections that I feel like are popping up with Akatar and Throne of Glass are kind of going over my head right now, because there's still so much going on, and I'm just trying to comprehend this story for the first time. But I definitely will be reading these books at some point, and I feel like on a reread is when I will catch more of those connections. But it's fine, because at the live show, for the people who are rereading this and are taking closer notes on connections, because it's my first time reading, I'm not really taking notes like that. So that'll be something I'll be interesting to see, because I'm just trying to enjoy and immerse myself in just learning this story, or this part of the story, for the first time. So the more analytical, figuring out Easter eggs and hints and things like that, I feel like will be for reread time. But I'm enjoying this so much. It's already almost 10 o'clock, and I still have to edit a video so I can get that posted by Thursday. But I was thinking I might take a bath and switch back to my Kindle tonight and read a little bit in the bath, but it's already kind of late, so I don't know if I'm going to take a bath tonight. But we'll see how long it takes me to edit my video. But I am loving this so far, and I'm very, very nervous about the ending. I have seen no spoilers about the ending of this book, but it is a thing in reels, SJM reels, TikToks I've seen shared, where people get to the end of the book and are like, really? 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 And they like freak out. And I'm just like, it makes me so nervous. But I was talking to Candace, because she's reading it right now. She started it before me, so she's a little ahead of me in the book. And she had shared one of those reels, and she's like, I'm not to the end yet, but this is making me nervous. And I was like, I know. And then we were talking more, and I was like, I feel kind of lucky that, you know, we, as new readers of this series, have a lot less time to wait for the third book to come out in January of next year than all of the people who read this book when it came out last year. So I'm like, we're lucky we don't have near as long of a wait, but it's still like almost a year. So, but what's cool is that for the last live show for the read along, we do have the official announcement of the next book coming, which is super exciting. And I'm kind of hoping that Jen does like everyone come back together and do a live show to talk about the new book when it comes out. But I definitely think I will want to read at least the first 2 Crescent Cities before it comes out. But that'll be like closer to the end of the year kind of a thing. But we'll see what happens. Hey, maybe these will come out in graphic audio next. I'd be here for that. And I know that Silver Flames is coming out in graphic audio. And the second, or the last part of that, I think it's a 2-parter. So I think the second part of that's supposed to be out in August. So maybe September, October, November-ish, we'll see Crescent City in graphic audio. But if it does take a few months, I'm guessing we'll get part 1 and part 2 for Crescent City, and then this one will have part 1 and part 2. So it might not be until after book 3 comes out, but I don't know. I'm enjoying it so far, if you could not tell. And then the other book I currently have going is I have it pulled up here. The Spinster and the Rake by Eva Devon. This is the first book in her Never a Wallflower series. I wanted another historical or paranormal to pick up this month, audiobook wise, and I was looking through my Hoopla to see what sounded interesting, and I saw this one and I was like, yeah, we'll give it a go. I saw Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings gave it like 4.5 stars, and I was like, okay, I will take Rachel's recommendation and go with this one. I'm only like 8% in. I didn't start it till like 4 o'clock today, so there was only like an hour left at work, but I mean, it starts right away. We don't really get that much setup, really. Let me take a drink. And I made some chai tea tonight. And of course, I had to use my lighted up mug from Enchanted Phantoms. I'll link them down below. I don't know if they have any extras of these, but we've got Bryce, Danica, Fury, and Juniper. So I had to use my lighted up mug while I was reading Hosab tonight. But The Spinster and the Rake, I'm 8% in. This is I know he's a duke. I don't think I learned his name. Edward. And he seems like he might be neurodivergent or social disorder type of situation. But he's very firm in that he doesn't really want to get married. And his aunt's kind of throwing a ball at his country estate. Because she's like, you need to get married. You need to start pumping out heirs. Like, it's time for you to do your duty type of thing. And he is out riding with some of his house guests. And one of the debutantes somehow falls like into a ditch. And he's the only one to save her. And he realizes that it's kind of ish trying to become a thing to like have him favor her over the other debutantes because she'd like to be a duke's wife. And he's just so over it. He doesn't want to deal with her. He doesn't want to be trapped into marriage with her. He's wet and muddy and he just wants to go home and not be around people. And he needs to recharge before the ball that night. And he just doesn't want to be around anyone anymore. And he like rips his pants. So we find him make his way back alone. And he steals, I mean, it's not really stealing, but he takes a pair of pants from the stables. So it's like one of the stable boys' pants. And he makes his way in and he has like a private library with a special chair that's being created to kind of give him, I guess, blinders against the world. And he talks about like how specifically he had this chair made for him to basically decompress in. And when he arrives in his private library, he stumbles across a lady who is Georgiana, and she is our spinster. And she is there with her family. They are genteel, but they are not titled. And her older sister, you know, Bella the Ball, and she's definitely kind of more of a wallflower. She doesn't really want to deal with things. Funnily enough, she's a reader. She just wants to hang out in libraries and not deal with people. So apparently that's a theme I have going on here the last couple weeks. And they have some banter kind of going on because he's just like, who are you? And she goes, who are you? And he's like, I'm the owner of the chair. And she's like, yeah, sure you are, with those muddy pants of yours. And somehow they end up kissing, and his aunt walks in on him, and because his aunt has been trying to marry him off, she's like, oh, I caught you. You two are now getting married, even though it was just a kiss. And of course, his first instinct is, she trapped me. So we'll see how long, how much the tension is going to cause because of that. Hopefully not very long. That I don't really like is, I don't mind the trapping them into marriage part if that actually was unintention. But if it's not unintention, hopefully it doesn't take too long for him to kind of realize she really doesn't want to get married to you. She doesn't want to be in society, let alone, like, even if she were to marry somebody, she doesn't want to deal with people so much. The last person she would choose is a duke. So hopefully that won't be too much of a hindrance in their relationship moving forward. But we're just like, I mean, they're already betrothed and it's 8% in. So I'm not sure when they're actually going to get married, how long. I mean, and I actually like historicals where they get married a little bit earlier in the book and then we have them working out their marriage and kind of figuring things out as a married couple. Plus, I feel like when they get married earlier, that leads to more steamy times between them without it feeling like they're doing something bad all the time, which is its own fun tension at times. But anyway, so we'll see how it goes. I definitely will try to continue listening to this at work. This is a more full-length book, so it might take me a few days to get through it, but I'm excited to try it, and this is my first Eva Devon. So there's that, and that's it I really have reading-wise. So let's do the quest calendar, hopefully really quickly, and because we have 3 days to do. So if you have not seen my other weekly vlogs, I have been playing the quest calendar by Sundial Games. The 2022 theme is the Voidspark Chronicle. This is a role-playing daily calendar with Saturdays and Sundays combined, and it's based off of tabletop role-playing games that are D20 based, so think Dungeons and Dragons, D20, Pathfinder, that kind of a thing. I do have the Hero Book Companion. I highly recommend it if you are interested. I should also mention Sundial Games is a Colorado-based company, so it's always fun to support local for me. And I have been playing as Zarilla Tur. She is an Urzen race, and she is a mystic class. So she's kind of like the Force-ish user, but we haven't done too much of that. But yeah, you could probably tell based on her picture, she's like the Jedi type character in this. So we'll go over a quick rundown of how the pages work, and then we'll just kind of get into it. So here's where we left off on Friday's page. So all of the script type font is the story that we'll read through. Anything in this block style font, it's usually in a box, is the mechanics that we're going to be needing to use to play through the story. And all of the information that we need to play this day is on the back of the previous day page. So, and then if there's a combat page, there's usually a little table that tells you how many enemies, how many rounds, what types of rolls you'll have to make, and things like that. Okay, so let me shift things here a little bit. All right, let's see what we got here. So Friday, last week we found a ship that had gone down in an asteroid belt and was sending a distress signal. And then while we were kind of checking it out, we found most of the crew, if not all of the crew, like murdered on it and dead. And then we were called back to our ship because there were, I don't know, radar blips or whatever of a bunch of ships headed our way. So could be enemies, who knows what's going on. So this was our captain calling us back to the ship. So let's see what happens. Oh, okay, yep. So Yeah, it looks like there's torpedo missiles kind of situation happening, and we are in ship combat here. So it looks like we'll be fighting 4 ships. Now, ship combat is different. You need to roll D100s. So if you are new to role-playing games, they do make D100 dice, but they're like weird dice that you have to buy separately. But otherwise, you would use your percentile dice and then your D10. So this would give you your 10th digit, and then this will give you your singles digit. So, oh, and then I do have a note. Whatever we rolled last Friday gave us an extra plus 10 to this. So, and I actually need to flip over to our ship's character sheet so I can look at the correct information. And our ship is the Karnak, and that's what it looks like. So, all right, we got a plus 10 as a bonus, and our normal aim is a plus 15. So we get plus 25 to what we roll here. So let's just get into it. So ship 1. Okay, so I rolled a 58. Is that a, yep, 58. So 83. All right, if your aim roll is 60 or more, your shot hits and you take no damage. Perfect. So then on to ship number 2. This is a 77. That's weird. So we're at 102. And this one we needed 70 or more to hit. So perfect. On to ship number 3. And this is a 37. So that is 62. Ship 3, we needed 50 or more. So that's perfect. And then on to the final ship, ship number 4. That is 56. So that puts us at 81. And we needed 80 or more. Woo, that was a squeaker. Okay, so collect 1 credit for each ship you hit. So we get 4 credits. And then a different mechanic for 2023 is they now offer a Sunday lottery, as you can see here. So what that is when you play your weekend page, you get the option to roll a D6 if you would like. If you roll a 1 or a 2, you lose some money. If you roll a 3 or higher, you can gain some money. So it's always fun just to kind of see what's going on. So we will roll. I got a 5. So we gain 3 credits. So a total of 7 credits from this page. So that was this weekend's page. So once again, we were fighting all these other ships here. So let's see what Monday's was. Oh, I never read you the story from this page. You take off from the asteroid as a small fleet of ships arrive and begin barraging the Karnak with missiles, laser blasts, and gunfire. Okay, so now we are on Monday's page, so it looks like we've got 4 more ships that we're going to have to kind of deal with here. You continue to take shots from the raider ships as you weave in and out of the asteroid belt. In an impressively dangerous maneuver, another ship attaches itself to the Karnak's docking port in mid-flight. They are locked out for now, but may get through in any minute. You focus on the immediate threat of the other ships? What? Okay, so this one we are back down to our normal plus 15 because that plus 10 was just for the next page. So I'll get back out my percentile and D10 here and we'll just kind of move on. It looks like we've got 4 more ships to kind of deal with. Okay, engage in ship combat. So this is a, what is that? Is that a 4 or 9? That is a 9. So we're at 97. So we are at 112. Okay, ship 1, if your aim roll is 55 or more, so we are good there. Ship number 2 is 17, so that puts us at a grand total of, not a lot, 32, and ship number 2 is 60 or more. I'm going to go ahead and do our time step ability, which allows us to reroll one roll per page. So I will do that. Hey, look at that, 86. So we are over the 60 that time. Hopefully the other two are fine. So ship number 3, that is a 49. So we're at 64. Ooh, that one was 60 or more. And then our final ship, ship number 4, that is 80. So we're at 95. And this one also needed 60 or more. So collect 1 credit for each ship you hit. So another 4 credits. Any remaining raider ships disengage from combat to go loot the Argyle. That was the down ship we found. Alarms go off as a breach in the docking port is registered. The raiders in the ship that attached to the Karnak have finally gotten through. Nayli takes over as you leave the bridge to go take care of them. Okay, we're just rolling on through. So I'm guessing today we're gonna be in battle with them hand face to face. Okay. They've got weird. Okay, so here's what they are. Look at this alien. It's like a worm. Focus. 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 It's like a worm, weird worm tongue. And then there's an eyeball like dangling in front of it. That's really weird. I love it, but it's weird. Okay, you head down to the main docking port to eliminate the raiders. You are stopped on the middeck as a plasma blast flies over your head. The raiders were quick to try to storm the bridge. You duck behind a doorway. They are armed with disruptor rifles that can mess with your equipment. Okay, so there's just 2 raiders. It'll be an attack roll, a damage roll, and potentially a charisma roll. So let's just get into it. I will switch over to my character sheet. And I just dropped my page here. Okay, so our attack is a +5. So that is an 18, 23 to hit. And we needed 14 or more, so we do hit, and our damage is 2d8 +2. So 8, so 10 total damage. If our damage roll is 7 or more, the raider dies. So he is dead. On to raider number 2. And that is a 14, so 19 to hit him. He's also a 14, so damage 3, 11, so 13 damage. And this one needed 5 or more to die. So he's dead. Okay. So if you killed 1 raider, collect 1 credit. If you killed 2 raiders, collect 2 credits. So we get 2 credits. And if you are experiencing malfunction, okay, so if we had taken damage from the raiders, we would have had to make a charisma roll to avoid experiencing malfunction. But we didn't take any damage, so we don't have to worry about that. So there is that. That's all I really have for you today. And yeah, hopefully I will get things back on track. There is another Avalanche game tomorrow night. I think it's another later start. It's Wednesday night and they're here back in town, but it's on TNT again. And that means it's either going to be super early or it's going to be super late, because those are the 2 options on the TNT Wednesday night hockey doubleheader. So I'm guessing we'll get the late start, which means I'll probably fall asleep during the game again, but it's kind of exciting. Tomorrow night's game is against the Minnesota Wild, and then they won't play again till Saturday, and that's against the Dallas Stars. And right now in the Central Division, Minnesota is in first place, above us by 1 point. So if we win the game against Minnesota, we overtake them. And then who is in third place right behind us is the Dallas Stars. So like these 2 games are 4-point swings, both games, and it's 4 points because they're in division rivals. So it's not just 2 points for us, but it's also 2 less points that they will get in the long run when it comes to final standings. We have 9 games left until playoffs. 9 games. It's ramping up. It is ramping up, and I can't wait. But anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. I hope you have a good Wednesday. And yeah, I will let you know how far I get into House of Sky and Breath tonight. I'm going to try not to finish it, but I know part 3s with Sarah J. Maas are absolutely redonkulous, and I can see myself staying up just to finish it and figure out what happens, but I'm going to try my best not to. But we'll see what happens. Hello, happy Wednesday, happy hump day. It is a first intermission of the game, and they're down 2-1, but you know, it's not over till it's over, right? So I'm going to try to do a quicker update because things are happening and I don't want to miss too much of the game because it's a pretty big game, like I mentioned yesterday. So last night it took longer for me to kind of get things put together and get to bed, and I ended up reading House and Sky of Breath till 2 o'clock in the morning. Part 3, man, part 3. But even then, I wasn't tired, but I was like, I gotta get to sleep. I just have to get to sleep. I need to try to fall asleep, even though my brain wasn't tired. And then I woke up at 6 o'clock with some tummy issues, and then I was all like shivery, and so, but then I wasn't tired, so I didn't go back to sleep, but I got all cozy back in my flannel sheets and blankets with my kitty, and instead I picked it back up this morning at 6 o'clock and I finished it like 10 minutes before I had to start getting ready for work. And let me tell you, I get it. I understand why everyone's just like, we're ending on this. Oh my gosh. I was like, I had to post on Instagram this morning. I was like, how am I supposed to go about my day today? How am I supposed to just go to work and not be just constantly thinking about this and obsessing about it? And thank goodness Friday is the live show so we can talk about things to other people. So, once again, spoilers. If you'd like to avoid spoilers for this, jump until this isn't here anymore and I'm talking about the audiobook I finished today. So, part 3, man. Part freaking 3. I don't even know where to begin. There was just so many revelations. We get the Asteri. We get Danica's mate, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. Braxian is a good guy. I'm so thankful Braxian is the good guy. And I guessed correctly. The Hind was Captain Daybright. The Asteri have been conquering different planets for millennia. And it sounds like either the Thronoglass world or the Akatar world, or maybe they're the same world. There's still some confusion about what exactly how these things are connected to. Is one of the worlds that was able to kick the Asteri out. And the Asteri feed off of all of these people's energy and the powers. So that's why the First Light stuff is created. And then when people die, which we actually figured this out earlier when they were in the Bone Quarter, but they become Second Light. So basically, and who knows what really happens to their souls, but it sounds like their souls just turn into food, and it's horrendous. And I was hoping, I knew something crazy would happen at the end. I was hoping that I would feel more hope for where this series is, and I know we'll get there. I trust Sarah J. Maas to get us there. But this almost feels worse than, oh my gosh, the book before Tower of Dawn. Queen of Shadows? Is Queen of Shadows before Tower of Dawn? No, Empire Storms. Queen of Shadow, Empire Storms, Tower of Dawn. The one before Kale's book, where Aelin gets captured. But there, at least world-wise, there were some positives going on. Here, there isn't really any positives going on. Because, I mean, I guess kind of ish positives. We have what's going on with Bryce. But it sounds like Braxian, Hunt, and possibly Rune all have the slave tattoo back on their foreheads. Oh, poor Hunt. Poor Hunt. Oh. And it seems like Hind, aka Lydia, might be Rune's fated mate? The new governor, Archangel, I was hoping would be good, was sharing information, which I'm kind of disappointed in, but she, you know, she probably was threatened and being forced to share this information type of a thing. Prince, oh my gosh, I totally just spaced on his name. The one that was betrothed to Bryce. Sophie, his person, died in the beginning of the book. Corwin, Prince Corwin, like immolated himself with his fire magic, so he's dead. Tharian frickin' sold himself to the Viper Queen to get out of the River Queen's clutches. Like, why didn't he go to the Ocean Queen? Why? Oh, Tharian. And then we have Ethan, who somehow found Sabine's half-ish sister or the other Fender heir. So she could be the next alpha/prime of the wolf pack. And she's a mystic. And so he's like, So we have the normal book ending, and then we have the epilogue. And the epilogue is Ethan waking up this mystic wolf. And so it like literally ends on her opening her eyes in the mystic tank. But the actual ending with Bryce, she's in Valaris. She's in freaking Valaris. I just don't even know what to do with it. Like, I don't know what to do with that information. What am I supposed to do with that information? I mean, we kind of knew it was coming. Something was coming based off of Silver Flames, but what? Sarah, please tell me. You probably are watching this, but please tell me. What are we supposed to do with this information? And for everybody who has read this book when it first came out, I don't know how you haven't your brains haven't spiraled into goo. I'm just like, I just don't know. My brain is just like, I was thinking about it off and on constantly today. And I just don't, there's just so much. So much. And even though I only got 4 hours of sleep, I didn't get sleepy at all today at work. I didn't get the yawns or anything, which is funny because my boss started yawning like crazy. And usually once one of us starts yawning, then we kind of both make each other yawn. But it didn't affect me today. But probably because my subconscious was just constantly going through this book and everything in the background. But I'm just like, the fact that almost everybody is tortured or killed or trapped in prison, prisoners at the end. It seems like the Hind was able to get away with her deceit. They managed to keep her from being found out, but oh god, and I hate Pollux. I hate Pollux. I wish that when they had their battle, at least one of those stupid people would have been killed. I mean, thank goodness the Harpy's killed. So I guess technically she's gone. But I really wanted Pollux to be killed because the poor because Lydia, now that she's found her mate. So, I mean, it was hard enough for her to do with what she had to do with Pollux. But for now, for her to kind of find her mate, I just don't know. I just don't know. So, I took this down. If you hear, there are no more spoilers. I took it down to see if maybe you wanted to know, but I'm done talking about things. 5 stars, obviously. Obviously 5 stars. As for the reading challenges I used it for, this worked for Read What You Own. For Gildathon, this completes an ongoing series, so I get the 10 points for it. For the Pretty Pretty Princess board game quarterly challenge, I use this for Mirror, and one of the options for Mirror is something shiny on the cover. And you know, the moon is literally foiled and shiny. I could have done the sky, because the sky is a sky on the cover or a blue character, and it has both. But I did it for something shiny because I feel like that might be a little bit harder to find because I don't have very many foil printed books. And then for Read the Season, this worked for the letter H in the word for spring. So that is some good headway. So there's that. And I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when it comes to Sarah J. Maas. But let's move on. So then at work today, and then when I got home, I was, doing the dishes, and I needed to do the cat box, and I got my dishwasher switched over so I can run that. I had some clothes in the dryer, so I ran that to kind of fluff them up so I can go through those. And I've got 2 loads of clothes that are from boxes. So some of it I'm going to have to go through it because some of it is like towels and stuff because I only grabbed a couple towels and the rest I put in storage. Some of it's clothes that I didn't take with me from place to place, or like holiday clothes that I wanted to wash and see if I still want to keep. And then some of it is like t-shirts and different clothing from either my mom or my grandmother, because while my mom was still alive, we saved a bunch of my grandmother's shirts and some of her like orchid flannel bed sheets and stuff, and I was going to do like t-shirt-ish type quilts for family members who wanted some. But I definitely would like to do something like that with my mom's stuff that we have. I kept a couple of her favorite penguin flannel sheets, and she had like a California king size bed, and I just have a queen, so I couldn't even use the sheets anyway. So I thought, no, that'd be perfect as like a backing or whatever for the quilts. And I'll see if my brother or sister wants one, or any other family members. But so I'm going to start kind of going through things and parsing them out, figuring out which clothes I can donate, which stuff we want to keep for whatever reason, whether I'm keeping it for myself or if it's going to be I'm going to put everything in a plastic tote that's for the quilt stuff and try to keep them separated and put them in my craft room for when I can get my table over back where the boxes are and get my sewing machine set up. And then I'd like to kind of start working on all of these projects I have now, that when I can finally get my stuff set up and have the space to do it. So anyway, I was doing a bunch of stuff when I got home tonight before the game, because like I mentioned last night, the game is super late, and the previous game went into overtime shootout, of course, so the puck drop was super late. But so I did finish The Spinster and the Rake by Eva Devon today. I finished it with like 2 minutes before the pregame stuff was on, and I was like, perfect. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I don't know. This the heroine was like, and this is something that I struggle with a lot of these modern historical romances, when the heroine is overly progressive or very political minded. And I get it's important to know our history and to see the way things are changed, and they're talking about the women's vote and the Whig Party and American Revolution and all this stuff. But when I read historical romance, I read historical romance more for the fantasy aspects of it. And I really could care less about the actual like political history and political machinations that are going on in that time. I know it's important. I like knowing it from an actual historical standpoint. But when I want to escape into a historical romance or into any romance, some of these political things, these race equality, gender equality, whatever social issues that are heavily addressed or very not subtly handled at all, I get bored, I get frustrated, I get annoyed with the situation, because let's be honest, I don't know, maybe duchesses could get away with more. But I feel like she would have had a hard adjustment anyway to become a duchess. And for then to her be overly progressive on top of it. Okay, but the fact that like all of these male counterparts to Edward are okay with it, I'm like, that doesn't seem quite right to me. And not that I'm a stickler for historical accuracy, but I just get nitpicky about stuff like that. I also didn't really like that there was kind of a communication issue. They did get married at like the 50-ish%, but they got married secretly. Like they had the big wedding planned, but then he really wanted to sleep with her. So he was like, get married to me tonight. And then they went and got married at the local church. And it was said and positioned like it was going to be something sweet between just the two of them, because they don't like to be around society, and he really doesn't like to be around people very much. But I just couldn't get it over my head that what prompted him asking her to marry him that night is that he really wanted to sleep with her, and they were both like riding high on their desire. So I was just like, And then after he slept with her, then we had this miscommunication, and then they didn't see each other for a month. And then there were a couple other times where it's like a few weeks passed, and I'm like, what the hell is happening here? Like, why are we all of a sudden doing these time jumps? So as you can tell, it didn't quite hit the mark for me. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. As for reading challenges I use this worked for a new to you author. So this is my 5th new to you author, I think, for the month. This worked for Read What You Own. For Gildathon, I use this for Crimson Robes, which is a red cover. For the Pretty Pretty Princess Board Game Quarterly Challenge, I use this for the necklace jewelry prompt, because not only are there necks on the cover, but she is actually wearing a necklace here. And then this worked for the letter E in Read This Season in the Word Spring itself. As for what I'm going to pick up next, I don't know what audiobook I'm going to pick up tomorrow at work. I think I'm just going to kind of wait and see what I'm feeling in the morning. Maybe I'll do podcasts or something like that. I want to try to get one more audiobook squeezed in before the end of day Friday, so I can have something to listen to tomorrow and Friday at work, and get another book in for the month. I mean, already this has been my highest reading month outside of December in like 2 years. But last December I did Vlogmas, and I read a whole bunch of Christmas novellas. But I'm already at like 20 books for this month, which used to be my normal. But then lately it's been, the last couple of years, it's been more in the 12 to 15 range. But I feel like I really have gotten into, I guess, the habit or the want to always have an audiobook going. And listening to that instead of so many different podcasts. And I've been listening to that at work for a lot of the time, and it's just where it's just hitting me just right now. So we'll see if this continues into April and I can have another really high reading month in April. But anyway, as for what I'd like to pick up tonight during the rest of the game, because the second period is starting now, my Romanceopoly prompt, This Fated Folly, I needed to pick up a paranormal romance that has magic in it. And I was going to do a paranormal one, but a couple of the paranormal, a lot of the ones I was looking that had magic on my either KU read and listens or in my Hoopla audiobooks are technically fantasies and not paranormals. And I know that there's a thin line between those when it comes to some things, but for me, I have a very strict line on what is or isn't a paranormal for me. So it took me a while. I spent most of the first period trying to figure out what I'm going to read. Because I was looking for an audiobook, but I decided to just pick up a physical book. I thought about maybe starting my Stay a Spell series reread, but I'm going to wait on that. I might try to pick up the audiobooks for that. I recommended them to my library to purchase, so maybe they'll purchase them. But I'm going to pick up the Vampires Mail Order Bride. I've had this checked out on KU for quite a while. This is specifically a vampire book, and I believe a human, but I'm not 100% sure. But in the blurb, this is set in like a supernatural town, which reminds me a lot of the paranormal romance I read growing up in like high school and college, like the Michelle Bardsley and Kimberly Ray's type situations. But this is by Kristen Painter. And this is the first book in her Nocturne Falls. And Nocturne Falls, based on the blurb, is like a town that has a bunch of supernaturals like vampires, witches, wizards. So even if our main characters here don't have magic, I know there is magic in this world just based off the blurb. So I'm going to go with that. It might be a little loosey-goosey, but I'm going to count it. And it's not too long. It looks like, 361 pages. So I should be able to get it done by Friday night. No problem. So I will be picking that up here once I'm done filming my clips. And that's all I kind of really have for you, I think. Let me check my notes. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I used shorthand for my notes, and I was like, what does this mean? So let's do the quest calendar. So yesterday we were fighting these aliens that broke their way into our ship, or raiders, I guess technically is what they are. Okay, so of course we have a long one today. So we have the Karnak mid-deck. There we go. Okay, so proceed with caution as you sweep the Karnak to eliminate all the raiders. Begin at the X and navigate around the ship. Visit each numbered room along your path. Explore and resolve each room you visit before you choose your next. Okay. So the X is up here. So we have room 1 right here. So we'll do room 1. And then we'll come down and we'll hit room 3 here. And then we'll come down. And then this little skinny room is room 4. So then we'll do 4, and then I'm trying to see where the doorways are. Okay, so then it looks like after 4, we'll go into room 2, and then we can do 6 and 5 from there. So once again, 1, 3, 4, 2, 6, and 5. Ooh, they get a little bit chippy, pushing and shoving. It's always a chippy game against Minnesota. It's fun. as long as nobody gets hurt, right? Okay. So let me get my dice over here in better reaching range, and let's kind of get just working on things. All right, so room number 1. There's no point in returning to the bridge. Captain Kalis has ordered the release of the Fang, which effectively sealed off this part of the ship. Okay, cool. So moving on to room 3. You sweep through the crew quarters to make sure no one except your passengers and crew are here. There are no imposters lurking here, but the crew and passengers seem scared. So we need a charisma roll, reminder, persuasive. And I'm on the ship, so let me flip to my actual character, and we do not have persuasive. And our charisma is a negative 2, so that's great. But it's a natural 20, so hey, heck yeah. Hey, yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, so that makes it an 18. Room 3. Okay, and we needed an 11 or more. You calm them down and tell them to lock their door. They thank you with 1 credit. Okay, that's a little weird, but I'll take it. Okay, then moving on to that really skinny hallway, that was room number 4. You enter the exercise room and find a strange creature here. The raiders must have let loose a trained attack animal. It must have come here due to the odor and pheromones from anyone exercising. Calm the creature. So wisdom, reminder, animal tamer. We do have animal tamer, which gives us a +2, and our wisdom is a 3, so a total of +5. And that is a 6, which gives us 11. Let's see if that's enough. If we need to use our reroll. Perfect. If the result is 11 or more, you calm it down and leave the room. You can come back and deal with it later. Perfect. Okay, so then on to that center room is number 2. You have found the elevator to the other decks of the Karnak. This is the last place to visit. Return here once you have visited every other room on the deck. Okay, so then we'll go up north and we'll do room number 6. That's the one with the big table. You enter the conference room and a blast from a disruptor trap rips through the room. Constitution, reminder, danger sense. So we have danger sense. So that's a +2. And our constitution is a 1. So +3. And that is another natural 20. That was weird. It rolled and then it was like boop, 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 20. Cool. So we needed a 13 or more on this one. You dodge out of the way of the blast and take no damage. Okay, and then our final room to visit is room number 5. You enter the recreation room and find one of the raiders inside ready to fire at you. So attack is a +5, and that is a 16, so 21. And we needed a 15 or more, so we have hit, so we will roll damage. Once again, it's 2d8 +2, so 5 and 8. Nice. So 13, 14, 15 total damage. And we needed 5 or more to kill him. So he is dead. And that is all that we have for today. So I'm guessing tomorrow we're going up to a lower, or I'm guessing lower deck. But once again, the route we took is we started here at the X. This was the way up to the bridge. Then we came down here. These are where the passengers were. And then this long hallways where is the exercise room where we found the creature. Here is the elevator where we ended up stopping. This is the conference room with the trap. And then here's where we just killed the dude. So that's it for today. I hope you have a good Thursday. I'm going to get to reading. Hopefully I can make a good little chunk into it. And I'm hoping it'll give me like the rom-com-y paranormal vibes that I'm getting from the cover and just from the blurb. And I'm kind of excited. It's been a while since I've read a mail order bride, but most of the time they're historical westerns that I read mail order brides for. So this will be interesting to read like a modern paranormal take on the trope. But we'll see what happens, and I will see you all tomorrow. Hello, happy Thursday. It is just after 11 o'clock. I spent the evening reading for the most part. I was working on a couple videos and some computer stuff, and then I did another load of dishes, so I have the dishwasher ready to run tonight because I found a bunch of my mugs, but there's still some very specific special mugs that I still haven't found yet. But I have now I have 3.5 boxes of just like kitchen Tupperwares or kitchen items or like cake carriers and just things like that I want to wash them all before what I'm putting like back in storage will be like clean. And then I'll try to put them in like plastic bins to kind of help them stay nice, although I will wash them when I use them. But like in like holiday hosting things like that. So I've been working out my poor little dishwasher, and it's a smaller one, so I feel like I don't get quite as much in it, but that's okay. But anyway, so most of the evening I put on Mountain Monsters, and I've just been reading while that's kind of going on in the background because I wasn't into music, and it was just, I don't know, it's like a good show to just have on in the background for me. But as for my current ebook, I am 83% into the Vampires Mail Order Bride, and I'm really enjoying this so far. It is closed door, fade to black, whatever you want to call it, clean. There is some kissing, but you do get the tension between them. I do wish that the physical chemistry between them was felt a little bit more, even if it is like, and I'm okay with closed door and clean romances. I think, they have their purpose, and I don't think I've ever read a paranormal or even a vampire romance that's closed door or clean or whatever you want to call it. Because I feel like inherently vampires are seen as like sexier creatures. But I'm just really enjoying this. So this is Delaney and Hugh, and Delaney is from Brooklyn, and she is a waitress at a restaurant, and she leaves work, and she leaves her apron on the counter at work, and it's got like all her tip money, and she needs to wash it before her next shift, and so she goes back to get her apron, and her boss's scheduled private poker thing isn't actually a poker thing. He is a member of the mafia mob. They don't really go into that too much about it, but so she witnesses him shooting somebody and potentially murdering him, and she films it with her phone, which I didn't quite understand why she was filming him with her phone. It was just kind of weird because like she was eavesdropping on them, and then she wanted to see what was happening, so then she like stuck her phone in the crack of the kitchen door to see what was happening, and then she's like, I don't know why, but I just pressed record, and then she saw her boss shot a guy, so she doesn't know if this dude's dead or not. And it was, this guy is giving money to her boss for whatever services he was doing, and her boss thinks that he is a couple thousand short. So she ends up, as she's leaving and sneaking back out of the restaurant, her phone dings with a notification. So then she kind of gets chased out of there. They don't 100% know it's her, but then they realize that she was, they had texted her that, and she saw it after the fact, but she had gotten a text, hey, you left your apron on the kitchen counter, and it's gone. So now they know that she was the person who came back, and when she's kind of running, she finds a place to kind of hide out to make sure that they aren't trying to follow her. And she just recently moved and hadn't updated her employee paperwork yet, so they don't know where her new apartment is, although I'm sure they could figure it out. But anyway, it ends up being like a matchmaking service for like supernatural creatures, and She doesn't realize it's for supernatural creatures. She knows it's just she kind of is able to kind of overhear a little bit, and find out that this is like a matchmaking mail order type situation. And so she just kind of spur of the moment sees this as a way to get out of the city and to potentially be in a safe situation for a little bit until she can kind of figure out where to go from there. And so she steals the file of an Annabelle, and then she ends up going home to get her cat, who's a Maine Coon, and his name is Captain. He's super cute. But she ends up going to Nocturne Falls, Louisiana, I think is where it is. And to be this guy's like potential match. Hugh, however, his grandmother signed him up for the match, and him and his family, he has 2 brothers and then his grandmother, her companion servant assistant type person is a very, very powerful witch that his grandmother actually saved from the Salem witch trials. And she has created these amulets that allow them to walk into the sun unharmed. So she threatens taking it away from him if he doesn't at least give this woman 30 days. So we have a little bit of a case of mistaken identity. Right now it's sitting at about 4 stars. So I'm 83% in. There's some bitter ex situations, and of course the bitter ex breaks that she's not really Annabelle, that she's somebody else. And then we've got the issue with these mafia people trying to track her down, and then Hugh really just isn't interested in having another wife. He had a wife. They returned in 1665. And what's funny is technically his grandmother is the Dowager Duchess. And so and then his parents died from the plague, and he's the second son. So his older brother Sebastian would have been the Duke. But they've lost their title and their lands and all that stuff. But that's one thing. He doesn't seem very British, and I get, he's probably been in America for a very long time. He's obviously been a vampire for centuries, but like, he didn't talk like he had an accent. There was a couple times he said like bloody, but there was no mention of him having an accent. There were a couple times where Delaney mentions that, oh, he looks kind of like James Bond, or like when he was dressed up in his tux and stuff like that. But not much is said about his accent. So in my head, he didn't have a British accent. And then all of a sudden it's kind of ish mentioned. And I'm like, wait, I know he's British, but I thought that he was like acclimated. I mean, I'm sure you would pick up the southern accent of Louisiana after being there for over a couple hundred years, but so that's fine. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's definitely that light paranormal feeling. I'm definitely kind of more intrigued to see what other books in this series will do, because the whole mafia plotline isn't 100% doing it for me. I feel like it's not really necessary. And it was kind of to get her to go to Louisiana and then have her not know he's a vampire and all this stuff. But I feel like very quickly his servant found out, his valet, that he's turned into like his immortal assistant, which they call a rook. He finds out that Delaney is not actually Annabelle, and he's like, oh, don't tell him. And then he tells Hugh, oh, don't tell her you're a vampire yet. And so he kind of I think he was trying to like matchmake them in his own way, and before those situations might have arisen and caused an issue. But I mean, it was like at 40-ish% that we like everything was kind of thrown out in the open. So I'm glad that that situation got handled fairly quickly on in the book, but I don't know. And then we have him, so his wife, when he was a human and when he was originally turned, it was an arranged marriage. He came to love her. And when she was becoming a vampire to be with him for all eternity, she ended up dying during the transition. The transition didn't work well for her. And so he harbors a lot of guilt about that, and he is like so sad that he was the one that killed her or caused her to die. And everyone's like, she could have died from the plague. Everyone died in the plague. And he's just like, but I wouldn't have the control over that. And then we kind of find out later that she didn't really love him. Yes, they had a good relationship, but they weren't in love with each other. And she was more just doing it because that was her wifely duty at the time. And so she more did it just to be with him. And he kind of has always known these past few hundred years that if something happened, she would have just remarried and found somebody that she loved. I don't know if there actually was somebody else and she just wasn't able to have that relationship because she was married off to Hugh. They don't go too much into it, but I'm intrigued. His older brother also was married when they returned, and he had a wife, and she turned, and she came through the turning just fine. However, when she became a vampire, she was like, I have so much of this world to explore. I don't want to be your wife anymore. And so she's kind of run away from him. So I'm intrigued about Sebastian's book. He is like the broody Duke type, like, and I don't know. I kind of hope it's not a second chance, that he finds somebody who actually wants him for him. But there's talk about him wanting to go track down his estranged wife. I'm not a big fan of second chance. So I would rather read a different, like him either trying to track her down and finding his true person that he's supposed to be with. The sheriff of this town is a werewolf, and he's very interesting. We've met a gargoyle who's just moved to town who knew the werewolf because they served through some sort of military aspect together. But so I'm enjoying like the town setup. And so I'm definitely intrigued to read more in the series and how these books will do when they kind of focus more on like the small town paranormal feel and not as much with this mafia subplot going on. But overall, I'm enjoying it. I mean, he kind of white-finged her a little bit-ish, which led to these mafia people who are coming to track her down, kidnapping her. But, you know, she's already saved and rescued from that. And now they're interested in doing it and him turning her, but he wants to do research and he wants to try to figure out if he can figure out why maybe the turning went bad with his previous wife, because he wants Delaney to be his wife. They fell in love very quickly, but it felt, I don't know, it just like when they met, they just seemed to click. And so even though it was kind of quick, I can see some people thinking it was insta love. I felt that connection from the first one, and it feels like to me one of those cases where it's like, when you know, and they just seem to hit it off and complement each other really well. So it didn't feel quick to me. But yeah, overall, I'm enjoying this. Like I said, 4 stars. I'm not sure if I'll finish it tonight, but I definitely will at least finish it tomorrow night so I can get it included in my March statistics. So I'll let you know how it ends. As for audiobook, today I decided to go with another historical, and I picked up the audio for Butterfly Swords by Jeannie Lin. This is the first book in her Tang Dynasty series, and I am at 29% now. I was at 25% when I left work, but I was listening to it a little bit when I was cleaning the kitchen. I don't know why this audiobook normal speed is 10 hours and 40 minutes when this book is like 280 pages. I don't know why. This is like 2 hours longer than the average like 360 page historical romance audiobook. I don't know why. I don't know why. But it is what it is. I'm enjoying it so far. So we have I think it's Ailey, and then we have Ryan, I think is how Riam. I think it's Riam. But so Ailey is the daughter of the current emperor, and she was on the way to a betrothal with a warlord in the area. I think that's what they're calling it in English, is a warlord. Some of these, from what I can remember of my Asian history class, and more specifically like the Chinese history that I took, I know they had a lot of words that could mean different things or are translated differently. Like the word for that we use for barbarians was also very commonly used as foreigners in Tang Dynasty China. And so it's kind of hard to differentiate if he actually is a barbarian or if he's a foreigner. Although at the same time, like Tang Dynasty China and a lot of Chinese history, like the Mongols and the nomad tribes, you can call them barbarians if you'd like, but like from Eastern Europe and the Turkey area, and like even as far as like India area, we're all just kind of called barbarians. And I think there's a couple different points in the Tang Dynasty, because it was like 300 years long, where there's like the 5 barbarian houses and the 4 barbarian houses. And I can't remember which one happened first or whatever. So I definitely am kind of missing little bits and pieces. This audiobook is very quiet. And even like with my volume turned up all the way, there were times where I like had to keep rewinding it to try to hear what she was saying. And I still was like missing stuff. And maybe that's because I was at work, but even when I was home listening to it, I had to rewind it a couple of times and being like, what's going on? And like really focus. And even then it was hard for me to pick up some of the words. I don't know if it was in the mastering or what, but it's like a very soft audiobook. It's done well. Like the actual narrator, I think, is doing a wonderful job, but the mastering of it isn't very good. So I don't know what happened there, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm a big fan of Jeannie Lin. I thought I had read this series before, but I didn't have it marked anywhere. And I had the first couple books in this series in paperback, and I haven't found them yet. I know that I had them in paperback though, because they're in my library scanner app, which is all the books that because I signed up with this app when I was at my previous apartment or the house share that I was in. So I had them over there, but I'm also missing the first book in the Stacy Reid series, The Purple Book. Oh my gosh, I'm completely losing it. It's the one where the lady, I think Kat, pretends she's engaged to the Duke to give her family like an elevated position, and then he finds out about her and he's disabled from a horrible fire, and he takes her back to his castle or his estate or whatever, and they fall in love. And I'm spacing on the series name, and I'm spacing on that book names. But it's a purple book cover, but I don't know where that is. So who knows what other books I'm missing, which is really frustrating. But anyway, so I guess I hadn't read this one yet. So I need to figure out what Jeannie Lynn books I have read before, because I know I've read her before. Before I picked up the Rake Appreciation Society one. So she might have another series or something that I had read a book from. Or maybe she had a standalone or something. I don't know. But anyway, I'm enjoying this so far. So Eiley is the daughter, and she was on a betrothal to this warlord dude. And she finds out that this warlord is actually responsible for some of the barbarian attacks. And actually, she finds out that he was actually behind one of the attacks against the emperor, where one of her 5 brothers was killed. And so she finds out from one of the dragon guard who she was close with that this dude is actually behind the murder of her brother, or the killing of her brother. I guess it is technically, now we know, a murder and not something that just happened in a battle. But so he helps her escape, and Riam ends up coming across her, and she at like a waylay station, and she's traveling with some like bandit type people, because she's trying to hide out and make her way back to her home in the Imperial City to like tell her family all like what she has learned. But it's like a big deal because she's running away from her betrothed person who is very powerful in his own right, which is something women don't do in that time period. And there's a very like high risk that her family will throw her out of the family. And I'm spacing on the word that it's used, but disown her. So there's a lot going on there, but she runs into, he's a barbarian, but he has white skin or light skin and blue eyes. And if I remember correctly, there were some nomad tribes in that area that I think were either the Dutch themselves or descended from the Dutch. And so I feel like maybe he's one of those barbarians, but I don't actually know if he's just a mixed race nomad barbarian guy, or if he actually is like white, which I know sounds really weird, but I know that it was actually a thing because we had so much trade going on. And knowing that some of these nomad tribes were from Eastern Europe, I know that there was some mixing of different races in these nomad tribes. So I'm not 100% sure what exactly is going on, and I kind of missed his situation on why he's trying to, it sounded like he can't show his face anywhere because he was guarding some merchants or something like that, and then they end up being found to smuggle some weapons. And then I don't know if everybody died except for him, or if he just got captured and then made his way out or something. I don't know. It was this was one of the parts that I tried to listen to like 4 times, and I just couldn't quite figure out what exactly was going on. But then Eiley puts together that her betrothed person is actually the one who's receiving these smuggled weapons and not the rebel sympathizers or whatever you want to call them. So they are traveling back. He wasn't originally going to help her, and then she shares food with him when they're at like a little tavern restaurant area when they first meet, and she shares some of her rice with him, and he realizes he's been drugged, and so he makes it to where her and the like brigands she's with are staying and camping out, and they've all been drugged, and he ends up saving her, and they were gonna kind of separate, and then he just kind of found himself drawn to her, and now he is escorting her back. He knew from the start that she was a woman. There's no like, she tries to be like, no, I'm a male. And he's like, no, you're not. Anyone looking at you could tell. And she's just like, but you know, she's doing it for safety, of course. And he's known as like the ghost man or something, so he's super sneaky. And yeah, so it's like road trip hiking, like Lord of the Rings. They're on foot. It's long travels. He's protecting her. There's one night where she couldn't really sleep. There was just so much going on in her brain. So she starts practicing with her butterfly swords and just kind of running through her drills. And he wakes up and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then they kind of spar a little bit. And of course they have a bet. And he's like, if he wins, she has to kiss him, and he ends up winning. And she ends up kissing him. And then they've kissed a couple other times, and he's gotten her bindings off and her tunic open, and they got a little hot and heavy, but he's so attracted to her. He's so attracted to her, and he just admires her so much, her strength of her spirit. He still doesn't know who exactly she is. He could tell that she was lying, and so he was eventually able to get out of her that she is from some sort of noble family, but he doesn't quite realize that she's the emperor's daughter. So that's a whole situation. And I guess he's friends with the princess from the previous emperor, and when Ailey's father became emperor, I guess she like chose to defect, and then he was granted his emperorship or whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting because we got some fun historical stuff going on, and I mean, I'm enjoying it, and I feel like it definitely has helped that I have taken some Asian history classes, even though it's been a while. I feel like, and I've seen a lot of and not just Asian, but not just Chinese, but I've seen a lot of Chinese, Taiwanese, Japanese, and Korean, and even some Thai historical like TV shows. And so the setting itself doesn't feel like is jarring to me. I feel like the mystery series, I think it's the Pekong Lee mystery series, I feel like that going into that series isn't quite as jarring if you don't really know anything about Asian history, or just the basic setting of what it was like back in that time. So I would just kind of caution you, hits you very much with the history very quickly, with the setting, and because they are traveling and there's a lot more political maneuvering going on, at least in this book so far. I just kind of want to throw that out there. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm definitely liking it. Hopefully I'll be able to finish it tomorrow. We will see. But yeah, they are running from her betrothal's dudes, his soldiers that are out searching for her. And they're trying to escape and make their way to the Imperial City. And she is like, I can't fall for him. I can't fall for him. I can't be with him. I can't choose him as a person. But she's so attracted to him, and he's so attracted to her. And so she kind of had to cut it off and be like, you're not allowed to touch me, or like, you're going to try to stay away from me as much as you can and stay distance. And she's worried about when she makes it to the Imperial City, what's going to happen to him. Because even if he's her protector, he's going to show up with the Imperial Princess, and he's a barbarian, and he's been along with her. So is anyone gonna believe that he didn't touch her, even if he ends up actually touching her? But is anyone gonna believe that? So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I'm definitely super enjoying it. Right now it's probably at a 4.5 stars, but we'll see once we can kind of get the romance really developing and pushing more. We'll see how that kind of goes. So far, I feel like it's mostly kind of been, outside of little snippets of them, it's more just establishing their, not necessarily romantic relationship, but familial as in familiar with each other relationship, almost kind of a friends situation, or a bodyguard the person he's protecting situation. So they're still trying to get the balance of their relationship, I think, settled, but there is attraction between them that has been acted on a couple of times with some kisses and some heavy makeout sessions. So it's fun for sure. But let's do the quest calendar, and I will stop rambling at you because this is another long clip, but I'm talking about books that I'm like super enjoying, and I just can't stop myself from talking about them. So yesterday we were exploring the Karnak mid deck, and we made it all the way through and got to the elevators. So I'm assuming we're going to a new level to try to find more of the raiders. Okay, yep, so it looks like we have two different maps now, the upper and the lower decks. So we have two different maps. Let's see what it says. After sweeping through the mid deck, you can now proceed to scout through the upper and lower decks. You can take the elevator from the lower deck to the upper deck between the two X's. Okay, so begin at the X and navigate around the ship. Visit each numbered room along your path. Explore and resolve each room you visit before you choose your next. So same mechanics as yesterday. So I'm assuming that because it says upper and lower, that this one is the lower deck. So here is the X. This is where we're going to start. So I'm going to say we'll come up here and do room 4. And then, is this 2 or 5? This is room 2. So we'll do 4 and 2, and then we'll come through and do room 1, and then we'll come back to the elevator and go up to the upper deck. And then it looks like we've got 5 here is this little console situation, and then 3 is up here. So we'll go in that order. Okay, so starting with room number 4. You enter the machine shop and find a large brute of a raider angrily charging at you. It grabs a hold of you and tries to wrestle you to the ground to subdue you. Strength reminder, athlete. So we do have athlete, which gives us a +2, and our strength is a -2. So it's just what we roll. And that is a 14. Okay, so if the result is 14 or less, let's see what it is, and then I'll decide if I want to re-roll. The brute raider tosses you around the room and slams you into various equipment. Reduce your health by 1. You are finally able to get to your feet and deliver a killing blow. We only took 1 damage, so that's fine with me. We'll just take the 1 damage. I'm okay with that. Okay, so then on to going down across to room number 2. You enter the labs and a blast from a magical trap lights up the room. A telepathic energy begins to work its way into your mind. It feels like a worm digging through your body. So, Constitution roll with Danger Sense and Arcane Adept. We do have both of those. They do stack, so we get a +4. And then our Constitution is a 1. So we have a total of +5. So, and that's a 19, so 24. So, if the result is 15 or more, you fight back the telepathic worm and take no damage. Perfect. So then we'll make it out to room number 1. You enter the cargo hold and see the breach in the docking port. There appear to be no raiders here, but you will need to search the hold thoroughly to make sure. Intellect reminder, investigator. So we do not have investigator, and our intellect is a 1. And that is a 16, so 17 total. Okay, if the result is 11 or more, you find a raider hiding in the shadows and take it out before it gets the drop on you. Perfect. All right, so that's it for the lower deck. We'll head back to the elevator and go up to the upper deck. And then that little console area is 5. You have cornered a group of raiders in the secondary bridge of the Karnak. The bridge is used to control the Karnak when the Fang is deployed. This is the last place to visit. Return here once you have visited every other room on this deck. Okay, so then we'll go up to 3 and then come back to this. So within the engine room, you find a drone roaming around and scanning the Void Spark engine and its control systems. It is likely relaying information to a group of raiders. Try to disable it. So intellect, reminder, engineering. And we do not have engineering. So once again, we have a +1. And I rolled a 1. So we will be using our time step reroll for the page. We literally can't do any worse than that. And that's a natural 20. Okay, I'm okay with that. So 21. That was a good use of our reroll there for sure. Okay, which one was this? Room number 3. So if the result is 15 or more, you disable the drone easily and will be able to salvage it. Gain 5 credits. Okay, perfect. So then back to room number 5, which it said it was the final one. So once you have visited every other room, return here. Once you do, try to sneak up on them to surprise them. Dexterity, reminder, stealthy. So we do not have stealthy, surprisingly enough, but we do, our dex is a +3. So, and that is a 14. So 17 total. All of the raiders, so this is 15 or more, all of the raiders are surprised by your approach. Gain a +2 bonus to your attack and damage roll in combat on the next page. Perfect. So that's it. I'll mark down the extra credits we got and the bonus that I will have to try to remember to use tomorrow. And I think that's it for today. So I will see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great Friday. I cannot wait to talk House of Sky and Breath tomorrow. Tomorrow is the live show, and I cannot wait to chat with everybody about it. I'm so excited. I'm almost more excited to chat with everybody about it than I was to like read the book, if that makes sense. I'm just very excited about it. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to go into connections and like an overall chat about theories and different things like that, or if Jen will do another live show and this one will just focus on House of Sky of Breath, but I'm down for anything and everything. And I'm just very excited. So I don't know if I'll film my clip before or after that. I'll let you know. But anyway, have a great night. Have a good Friday. And I will see you very soon. Hello. Happy Saturday morning. I ended up going to sleep super early last night. I was able to finish a book before the House of Sky and Breath live show. And then I was going to read and just kind of hang out. And I ended up just like, I'm going to go lay down in bed and read. And I fell asleep. And I didn't read anything. So, happy Saturday. But let's talk about yesterday's books and what happened on Friday. So I did finish The Vampire's Mail Order Bride. I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars, but I rounded it up to 4 stars on Goodreads. Overall I enjoyed it and I liked it, and that's why I rounded it up. However, our guy was just like so insecure, and he almost had too much emotional turmoil, and I don't know. So I think when I last chatted with you, she was kidnapped and he saved her and they're getting married. And it's like, okay, they're taking steps towards their happily ever after. We're still at like 83% at that point. So there's still a good chunk of the book left. And I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? He didn't go back on turning her into a vampire. He was overly like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And Delaney was just like, yes, I'm sure. I love you. I want to be with you. I want to be a vampire so we can potentially have children, which, how does the menopause and like the women's, like, do they go through menopause? Can you not have babies if you've already been through like early onset menopause? Like if you're a 30-year-old who has already been through it or something? Or does it, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just like going too much into it, but like, as everyone probably knows, you know, women are born with a set number of eggs and that's it. And what if you turn them after they have no more eggs? What happens then? Does that mean you're never going to get pregnant? I don't know. I just was like, I wanted more information about vampires and how they worked. And apparently, even though it was never discussed, they have a very high metabolism. They can eat food, but they really need blood to give them like their main nutrients. But they can eat normal food, I guess. And they have, when you're a vampire, you have a very high metabolism. So the reason why they all are super skinny is because their metabolism is like exponentially active. And so they're just like, they eat a lot of food and they have to drink blood every couple days, it seems like. But they eat a lot of food. And there was mention earlier on the book how like all of the groceries he has is like non-organic, top of the brand, the best groceries you can get kind of a thing. And then we find out it's because they have very heightened senses, even including taste. So as vampires, you can taste the qualities of different foods, which was interesting. I just wanted more of that and less of his emotional turmoil constantly and the whole mafia setup. I just wanted to know more about like actual vampire stuff, or just not even mention it. And so it's like there's this big like it's a small mention, and I'm like, I want to know more about this. How does this work? Kind of a situation. But she wakes up and she's like, oh, I lost that 15 pounds. And so that wasn't really explained either. He didn't really go into too much that we as a reader saw about what actually happens. And he doesn't really tell her how the biting process is, how it's going to feel or anything like that with her until he's literally about to bite her the first time. And then of course, even though he spent $60,000 getting this special magic imbued in this special ring, and he gave up his amulet to walk in the sun, and, you know, all of this, of course, usually someone, when after the final bite, they only sleep for like 4 to 5 hours and then they wake up as a vampire. Of course, she sleeps like 8.5 hours, and at like when he can't handle it anymore, he is gonna go walk out into the sun to his death because he and his little rook dude assume that she's dead. And then of course she comes down at the very last minute, and I'm just like, we didn't need that extra like potential. Like, it didn't feel very angsty. I was just kind of like, oh my god, dude, that was a choice of the author that didn't feel like it was needed. There was just so many little issues with them leading up to that, with all the magic and all of the hope and whatever. Okay, maybe make her sleep an hour longer, but she still makes it through. Or honestly, because he's talking about how when his wife didn't make the final transformation, after the second bite, she woke up and she was pale and her body was weak, but Delaney woke up like energized and glowing, and like she came through that second transition bite, which is how you become a rook. You just don't get the third bite to change you. Can I help you? My goodness. She came through it like better than anyone could have even expected, even if you weren't expecting the worst kind of situation. So I just thought it was a weird choice by the author to make her have her transition be like twice as long as it's supposed to be, and have him almost kill himself. And it's like, I get you love her, but you have family members, like you have a life, you have someone who is depending on you, your rook, who's been with you since the 1600s, because apparently his rook, Stanhill, was his like valet when he was the second son of a duke, kind of a situation. Oh my goodness. So we'll see. I definitely want to try more in this series. The next book I saw is actually about the werewolf sheriff. And I guess he has like an arranged marriage situation with a werewolf woman from a different pack, as kind of alliance, we're gonna stop feuding situation. So we'll see how that is, but at least we won't have to be dealing with the mafia situation. So we'll see if she makes more choices that kind of add more conflict. And what's weird is most of this conflict is very quickly, like why even have the conflict if it's just gonna be solved like that? Like, we don't need as much potential conflict in it. But anyway, 3.5 stars, because even though I'm very nitpicky with it, I still enjoyed most of my time reading this. As for reading challenges, excuse me, this worked for new to you author, read what you own. For Romanceopoly, this was the prompt I was needing. So it was Fated Folly, paranormal romance, or the more specific prompt, read a paranormal with a bit of magic in it. So I'll need to do my new Romanceopoly roll before we wrap up. And then for Gildathon, I use this for illustrated book. For the Pretty Pretty Princess board game quarterly challenge, I use this for unicorn, and it actually worked for both options of the prompt, which is an animal on the cover, which we've got bats and we've got her Maine Coon, or a paranormal romance. So this works for both. But I more wanted to apply it because when I saw the cat on her lap, I was like, oh, I know there's a prompt that's animal on the cover. And then for Read the Spring, this worked for the letter N because the series is Nocturnal Falls, and that is in the first holiday I'm working on for that. So there are those. As for my current audiobook, Butterfly Swords, I'm 86% of the way through. I've got like 2-ish hours left on it, and I was kind of hoping to finish it yesterday, but I just didn't get it done in time. So it'll be my first official book for April, which is fine. I wanted to get another historical romance done for March, but it's all good. I'm enjoying it still. I don't know, they like keep white fanging each other and like pushing each other away from different situations. And I mean, there's a lot going on. So we made it back to the Imperial City, and she met up with her father. Well, her father was out of town, and of course everyone's freaking out, like, why are you back? Where's your husband? And then she finally is like, he's not my husband. And then her mother is just like so pissed, and she's like, you're disgracing the family and all of these things. And she's just like, he killed our brother. He's not a good person. He's not an ally of ours. Why am I trying to be married to him? And her mother says some horrible things to her, and then her father comes back the next day and she tries to talk to her father about it. And I mean, her father, even when they were growing up, never really kind of dealt with her much because she was the daughter, so that was like she was under the guise of her mother and her grandmother, which is very typical for that. But it seemed like before her father was called to be emperor, they had more of a familial relationship, and it's like gone. Her father has definitely, and I get it, he has a lot weighing on him, but he says some very rude, not good things to her, and basically tells her that, yeah, he knows that this warlord dude is not a good person. I don't think he knew that he was the one behind her brother's death, but she was just like, I can't marry him. And he's just like, but you're going to, because this is going to create the alliance so that we stop battling, or we don't have a potential war on our hands situation. And then her mother comes to her later when she's all sad, and she's like, we all have to make sacrifices. And she's like, you're the empress, why are you making sacrifices? And then we find out that her father is basically losing his honor because he's going to promote his wife of 30 whatever years, who has given him 5 sons, which is a big deal, to second wife in name only, and he's going to marry the former emperor's daughter, the princess, and make her empress to kind of help quell any potential uprisings of people who supported the previous emperor and their family. And she's just like, she loses it, and she cries, and her grandmother helps kind of sneak her out of the city, and she's gonna head back home to like their country place where they all grew up. And she runs into Riam on the way there again, and he is called a Turk by someone, so he is that. And there is actually a little bit of a discussion of, well, is he barbarian or is he a foreigner? Because, like I mentioned before, I knew that that was a common translation for the same word, was both ones. And he ends up helping her because now she's completely alone trying to make it home. So he goes with her, and they get to her house, and he meets the youngest brother, but she's the youngest of all the children, so the one that's right before her. And he has the mind of a poet, or the heart of a poet, and he was never really a warrior, but he was kind of forced to be a warrior because that's what their family did. And they finally go all the way. And then her brother is like, you need to pray to our ancestors, to Riam. And Riam doesn't understand why that's like they're pushing for him to do this. And so he's like, I don't understand this. This isn't my culture, kind of a thing. And so he leaves. And then Eileen gets kind of upset with her brother for pushing him instead of explaining why that he should be doing this, or how this could help whatever situation for their relationship to be approved. Eileen has told her brother that she's in love with Riam, but she hasn't told Riam yet, but they've been sleeping together. They just can't stay away from each other now that they have gone all the way. And she's like, our father has no daughter. So she's basically renouncing herself from the family, and she runs after Riam, and now they're with the barbarian leader, who is the husband of the former princess. So, and they married for love. So when her and Eileen are talking, and Eileen tells her what her father has planned, she's like, I'm already married. No, thank you. I mean, obviously, she says it in a more diplomatic way than that, but I don't know. So it seems like things are going to be potentially set up with him, the like barbarian prince leader dude, wanting to move further into the barbarian lands with his wife, who's the princess, to help keep her safe. But he knows that some of the people in their group aren't going to want to just go out into the desert lands. And so he's potentially asking Riam if he's like testing the waters to see if Riam would be interested in leading the group. But of course he's got confidence issues about that because he was leading the previous, when he got hit on the head with the whole smuggling situation, he was in charge of that group doing the trading situation. And then we find out that there were some of the people who like were traders, and they got paid under the table to do the smuggling. So Riam and the other people who were kind of leading that group that were traveling weren't aware of it. But those people have all been killed, I guess. Because that's what they get for causing the situation. And only 2 people died of the barbarians group. And so Riam's like not happy that those 2 people died, but he's happy that only 2 of them died. And everybody's happy that he's alive because they all thought he was dead. And then they're like, how are you with the current princess? So it's like this whole thing. And so they keep just like trying to get away for each other or push each other away for the good. And now Eileen's talking about going back to her house or going back to the Imperial City. And I'm just like, girl, why? I don't understand why you're making this decision. Especially after you had the talk with the former princess and how, yeah, she misses her home and she misses her culture and those types of things. But she's like very plainly and multiple times, like, I wouldn't change anything in the world because I love my husband and I have created a new life for us. And like, I've created a new life and he is my number one priority. And for some reason, Eileen and Riem still are just tied in too much other stuff that they aren't making each other their number one priority, but they're still so drawn to each other again. So we'll see. Right now I'm kind of sitting at a 4-star. Like, I don't know. The relationship wise, the conflict between them and them constantly pushing each other away. Honestly, their relationship aspect is more like a 3.5, but I'm able to kind of get past that a little bit. Like, it's still bothering me, but I understand it more just knowing more of the context of the history and the gender roles and the class difference roles kind of situation from being somewhat aware of the history before going into this. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't need it to be this historically accurate. I love it that it is, but I don't need it to be this historically accurate because I want an HEA and I want a happy ending, and I'm sure we're going to get there, but I don't want to go through this much angst to get there. But we'll see. But I was looking at the next book in the series because I was like, are we going to move to one of her brothers? Like maybe her poet brother or maybe one of the other barbarians that we've met. And it's the warlord that Eileen was engaged to. And then they come across the former emperor's mistress in the woods. And I guess he like captures her. So it's their relationship. And so I'm intrigued because he's definitely like the bad guy in this book. So I don't know what's happening there. But I'm definitely intrigued. And then I did realize the book that I had read previously by Jeannie Lynn is in her Rebels series. And it is, I already forgot, but it's like the sword dancer or the dancing sword or something like that. And that's why I got them confused, is because they both said sword in it. But so, yeah. I knew, like, obviously I knew I hadn't read this one before, but I thought I'd read this one, but it was the other sword book that was the first in the Rebel something series. So I got that figured out at least too. So that makes me feel better, but hopefully I'll finish it this weekend or at the very least Monday at work. And yeah, so that's it for that. Before we do the quest calendar and completely wrap up, I'm going to do my Romanceopoly roll, and then we will come back and close out this week's vlog. So I will be right back. Okay, so here we've got our Romanceopoly board. I've got my little kitty token. So we are on Fated Folly, which is over here in Paranormal. I've got my 2 dice for today, and I've got my cards here. So let's just see what happens. So 8, 6, 7, 8. So we are on Action Avenue. Okay, so here we go. Action Avenue. And this is for the general genre prompt is fantasy, but we've got a very big specific one here. Read a fantasy from your TBR. If you haven't got any on your TBR, read the first one that catches your interest. Well, I have quite a few fantasies on my TBR currently. And I'm taking part in the fantasy readathon this month, so I'll pop it up here for you. And I actually plan on picking up a fantasy book this weekend via audio. So I'm going to go ahead and roll again because I already kind of have an idea of what I'm going to read. I'm just going to wait to talk about it. So I'm just going to roll and we'll move on just so I can have a backup one that's going on right now. So That is 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we are on the genre prompt is contemporary, but this is The Office. So, all right. Read a romance where the characters meet at work. So I'll have to pick up a contemporary, or, well, you know what? It doesn't say, if we do the genre only, it's a contemporary. But the actual specific prompt is just read a romance where the characters meet at work. So as long as they do that, I think I can be in any genre, which is great. So there we go. That is the prompt that I will be doing after I finish my fantasy book this upcoming weekend. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that and let you jump back to the quest calendar and wrapping up this vlog. So there we have it, my new Romanceopoly prompt. I'm excited to see what book I might pick up soon that works for it. So yeah, let's just do the quest calendar and wrap things up here. So where I left you on Thursday, the upper and lower decks. And we ended, I don't remember where we ended. I don't remember at all where we ended. Okay. Oh, that's right. We have bonuses to attack and damage. Okay, that's right. That's right. We found a group of the raiders. So it looks like we are going to have 4 raiders that we'll have to deal with. You launch an attack on the raiders in the secondary control room before they can take over the Karnak. This dude is like super creepy. Like his face, especially like his jaw and his teeth. Very creepy. Okay, so let us get our things set up. And then like I mentioned, it was +2 to attack and damage, which is perfect. So take that out of my dice thing. All right, so our attack for this is going to be a +7 and our damage is going to be 2d8 + 4. So raider number 1. 16. So we are at 23. Raider number 1, we needed 15 or more. So look at my d8 here to hit. So damage is 6 and 8. Nice. Very nice. So that is 14 plus our 4, so 18 total damage. We needed 5 to kill Raider number 1, so he is like blood mist. Okay, Raider number 2. We'll just kind of keep moving. Natural 20, but that doesn't quite mean an auto success. But we are at a 27 for him. On that one, we needed a 14. So damage is 4, 5, 6. So 10 damage on him. On this one, we needed 6 or more to kill him. And then Raider number 3, 10. So that's 17 to hit on him. And he needed a 14 or more. Perfect. So then damage is 5, 6, plus 4. So 10 damage on him. That one needed 7 or more to be killed. And then on to our final one, Raider number 4. That is an 8. Great. But 15 to hit. This guy is a 14 or more as well. Perfect. So damage, 6, 7, plus our 4. So 11 total damage on him. And we needed 6 or more to kill him. Perfect. All right. Collect 1 credit for each raider you killed. So we get 4 credits. And that's it for today. So we'll see if we got them all in next week's. And hopefully we can get our ship rid of all these raiders and take back control of the Karnak. So I think that's all I have for you. So thank you so much for watching this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you'd like to leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you're participating in Romanceopoly. I haven't seen too many people talking about it lately. I know a lot of people and booktubers I've followed played it a couple years ago, the last year that they did it, but I haven't seen very many people talking about it this year, so let me know. I mean, you still have time to join. It runs all year, and if not, if you'd rather just leave me an emoji, why don't you do like a board game piece, like a die or a little pawn or whatever you'd like to leave. And otherwise, I will see you all soon with another video.